Oh hey there, and welcome to a first edition of Leo's Backwoods Garage. Oops, did I just say my real name? I meant R83's Backwoods Garage. Today we're going to talk about some common issues of the Acura Vigor in case you're interested or you are looking at buying one or you own one and you have these common issues. Acura Vigor common problems. First things first. These have the little spark plug deals that go down in a little tube in your valve cover. Some people call that a rocker cover, apparently. But what can happen is down inside this tube here, this is a spark plug tube. You look down in there, your spark plug's down in there. It's got a little O-ring at the bottom of that. It's called a spark plug tube seal. And if you ever pull your plug wire out and it's wet with oil, then you know you have leaky spark plug tube seals. And it's really easy to fix. I was going to do a video on how to fix it, but I ended up having to concentrate too much on what I was doing to make a good enough video to put on YouTube to actually talk about it. But anyway, this goes for all cars that have spark plug tubes with leaky seals and where you get oil in the spark plug. First thing you do on a car like this or any other car is disconnect the battery. And then this particular car also has a ground wire connected to the valve cover. You always want to disconnect that last. You don't want to disconnect your ground wire before you disconnect your battery. Once you disconnect those, you can remove that, and some extra bolts that hold the little wires in place. And then you undo these bolts. Oh, well, of course, before you do all this stuff, you should have ordered a valve cover gasket set, which will include these rubber grommets for these screws. It'll also include the spark plug tube seals and the valve cover gaskets. Another way to get your spark plug tube seals to not leak after you do this job is to get yourself some good forma gasket stuff. This is aviation forma gasket. You can get it at Napa. I went and got it at a place called Shucks here, or cskauto.com. And this brand is Permatex, but the bottle, the stuff, and every other thing on it looks just like the stuff you can get at Napa. And it seals things really well and it stays tacky. It prevents leaks. Another common problem on these Vigors, you can see orientation here, front of the car, passenger side. The distributor likes to leak oil down onto the exhaust manifold, or the heat shield for the exhaust manifold, right down there. That is because you have distributor O-rings in that distributor and they've gone bad and they're leaking. There's also a seal on the shaft in the distributor, and if that one's leaking, I think you have to replace the entire distributor to get rid of the oil leak. Anyway, it's a pain in the butt. Every time you turn off your Vigor, you'll get smoke coming out from under the hood. You'll think something's on fire, but the common problem is it's just the distributor here that's leaking. Anyway, I had to have that fixed, just like I had to have those tube seals fixed. Common problem. Oh, and I guess if your distributor's leaking oil down onto your exhaust manifold, it can also cause a rotten egg smell, or kind of like an exhausty smell when you're driving at highway speeds. At least that's what I experienced, and it went away after that got fixed. Another issue on a lot of cars is the power steering rack. On this particular car, it's got power steering rack boots here. If those are leaking like they are on my car, you can't just replace those boots. You have to replace the entire power steering rack. So if you're leaking power steering fluid and you don't know why, because your hoses are all good, your power steering's working and all of that, always check the little boots under your car to see if they're leaking or not. Now, doing a little bit of research online, you can find that you can replace certain cars' boots down there, but the bottom line is, that's noisy. But the bottom line is, those boots aren't designed to hold back fluid in the first place. So if you have a leak down there, your rack has already gone bad and needs to be replaced. Ooh, look at the goop. And obviously someone's had problems here in the past with removing the radiator cap while the engine was still hot. Usually it's probably because they were trying to check the coolant because they had an overheating problem. Otherwise you never want to take off the radiator cap when it's hot because it'll make a mess, and that white crap is really hard to clean off. Now if you do have an overheating problem, your thermostat on this car is here. This is your upper radiator hose, which you can see I already have a new one to replace this one. It's starting to bulge a little bit, and that's not okay. Had too many cars just break their hose and leave you stranded wherever you're at. But if you have a coolant leak, one of the first things that I do is check the radiator and make sure it's not wet anywhere. Check the hoses too. If they're bulging, replace them. But sometimes you get a hose that just bursts, and that'll cause a big coolant leak and cause your engine to heat up really quick. But another thing that can happen is down here is a water pump, and on this car it's timing belt driven like it is on most cars. Your water pump can actually start to leak under here, and that can cause an overheating problem too. And you'll be losing coolant, you'll be low on coolant, and you'll have no idea why, because you'll check your hoses, you'll check your radiator, and you'll find no leaks. But you'll see some weird coolant leaking from your engine area. Well, that's usually because it's the water pump. So I had to have that replaced along with the timing belt. So anyway, after a lot of money in repairs, I think this engine's finally ready to go. And I'll also do a little tutorial on changing a radiator hose.